Hey guys, it's Jeff. Got another quick video for you. This one's going to be on manual safety versus other safety features available on guns. And do you need it? Should you get it? Do you even want it? Coming up after this. All right, guys, I'm back. So there's a lot of talk, and this is kind of one of those conversations that's perpetual, that you're going to see reoccurring every couple of months. There's going to be new shooters joining the culture of exercising their Second Amendment rights, and they're going to come in and they're going to pose questions in different social media platforms, whether it be on Facebook or on news groups or forums, that kind of thing. And the biggest question that I see reoccurring, besides the 9mm versus 45, is, do I need a safety, or should I get a safety on my gun? Well, that's an open-ended question, and it's really a personal preference. But I'm going to cover some of the things and some of the reasons why I think that people may or may not want to consider either a manual safety, a passive safety, or no safety at all. Now you can see on the table here, you see two examples of guns with different safety features. And if you've been in the industry a while, or if you've been around the industry, you'll know that this is the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, and it comes with a manual safety or no safety at all. No manual safety, I should say. But some of the features that you're going to see on these guns that do have no manual safety, you're still going to see features on them that are considered safeties. Now, this particular gun has a trigger safety, and what that does is, if you don't have a good finger on the trigger, when you go to pull the trigger, it's not gonna engage the firing pin and allow you to fire the firearm. Now, I just wanted to cover this real quick. These guns are empty. They don't have magazines in them. As you can see, no magazine, no rounds in the gun. So just wanted to point that out. I know there's a lot of safety Nazis out there on the internet. So that out of the way. So back to the trigger safety. So there's a trigger safety on these guns. If you're not pushing on the little mechanism here, the little hinged mechanism here, it will not engage the firing pin. You have to have good purchase on the trigger and release the striker. So I'm going to show you the feature on this gun that does that. Takedown is fairly simple on all these guns. So you have this little device right here. This is the firing pin block. And when you go to pull the trigger on this gun, it's actually going to disengage the firing pin block that's going to allow the firing pin to travel forward. You can see that here. If I push this down, it'll actually allow me to... Here, let me take it down a little bit further. So you can see the firing pin inside there is not out. So when you push this forward, it doesn't go forward until you push this plunger down. When that plunger is pushed down, you can then move that firing pin forward. So you can see it there kind of poking out. So anyway, through the mechanisms in the gun, with the firing pin safety block engaged, you cannot fire the gun. So do you need, with that safety feature in place, do you need a manual safety? Well, some people do. Now, not everybody is training all the time, and the internet isn't their source of income, so they're not out, touting how safeties on guns are redundant. This is the only safety you need, etc., etc., etc. Go look up something called Glock Leg. Glock Leg is a phenomenon known to people who believe that this is the only safety that they need, and they'll get some kind of concealment garment inside the trigger guard as they're holstering, and it'll actually engage the trigger as they're holstering their firearm, and what ends up happening is they end up shooting themselves in the leg. It's a real deal, real phenomenon. It happens. So do you need a manual safety if that's the case? Well, that's up to you, right? I mean, that's personal preference. A lot of people believe that you can train yourself to holster your firearm and maintain safe control of your firearm without needing the redundant safety of an external manual safety, right? I can't disagree with that. You know, some people live the firearms life, they live the firearms culture, and having an external safety isn't a requirement for them. Now, not everybody does that. You know, a lot of people are forced to conceal their firearm. They're required to conceal their weapon of choice, and during that period of holstering a firearm, they may or may not want to have a safety. So this may work for them. If they're not a comfortable shooter and they're gonna, you know, have something over the trigger guard, but you know, they want to throw it into a bag or into a purse, you know, should they be disallowed from owning a firearm because they don't train with it enough? I think that most Second Amendment people would support the fact that they do not have to train in order to exercise their Second Amendment right to self-defense. They're aware of their limitations. They're aware of areas where they could use some improvement. And until they're more comfortable, they want to mitigate that risk by having a manual safety. Now, that doesn't excuse them from learning how to manipulate the firearm in a safe manner so that they can present that firearm in a self-defense scenario. But if they want a little bit of peace of mind, you know, you can't begrudge them for that. Now, the next step up from a manual safety here, where you're activating the safety in a manual fashion, is a firearm that uses what's called a passive safety. So a passive safety means putting your hand on the firearm disengages the safety. If you don't hold it in a particular way, the safety is enabled and on, and the firearm cannot be fired, right? So let me demonstrate that real quick. So I'm not holding the backstrap safety on this firearm, and I go to pull the trigger and nothing happens. You hold it in a proper fashion, pull the trigger in a proper way, and the firing pin fires. Now, this also has a trigger safety, just like on the Smith & Wesson does. So if you're not holding that trigger in the same way, this is more of a Glock style safety with this little blade in the middle. If you're not holding that trigger in a particular way, it's not going to fire regardless, right? So you can pull on it and not hit that blade or push that blade down, and the trigger will not engage. This also, I'll take this one down as well real quick. This also has a firing pin block, same as the other firearm does. So you can see it there. Once you push that plunger down, it also prevents the firearm from firing. It's another internal safety to prevent a negligent discharge in the event that you you know, drop your gun or whatever. And you've heard the stories, and if you haven't, a lot of guns will be released from manufacturers, and then reports will start coming in that guns will fire if they're hit a certain way, or if they're dropped, or you know, could fire even though safeties are engaged, blah blah blah. The most recent version of that was the SIG P320. It's a striker fired gun, has a trigger safety only, doesn't have any manual safeties, or at the time it didn't have any manual safeties on it. And there were people that were able to demonstrate, you know, using snap caps or just blank rounds, if you hit it in a certain spot in the back, that would engage the firing pin, and the firing pin would fire off a round. You know, SIG did do a recall on them. They did do a repair. The ultimate angle on this whole conversation is it's a personal preference if you want to have an active or a passive safety or no safety at all. I think there's arguments to be made for every single one of those, and your mileage may vary based off of your needs. So don't let anybody tell you that you don't need a safety and that you just need to train more. I think that's a very ignorant statement to make. Do your own homework, do your own research, find a gun that's comfortable for you, that you can manipulate all the controls on, and then learn to use that firearm. And if that takes you a year, not everybody can go to the range, you know, once a week. Do what you're comfortable with, and then as you gain confidence, you can remove safeties as you feel is appropriate. So that's all I got, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. If you haven't done so, subscribe. You know, that's what really motivates me to continue making these videos. You can find me on other social media platforms on bitchute.com, on facebook.com. You can find me on GunStreamer and on Instagram. Look for Jeff_tack. I'm on all those platforms. So that's it. That's all I got, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.